The Galactic Council had always considered humanity a dangerous anomaly. A young species, too ambitious for its age, too clever for its own survival. They watched Earth grow from a blue marble of chaos into a forge of steel and flame, where adversity bred innovation and pain bred progress. When humans reached the stars, they didn't crawl, they erupted outward like wildfire. For the first time, the galaxy felt nervous. At first, it was whispers in the council halls. A human mining colony in disputed space, an accidentals incursion into alien territory, an arms treaty ignored because humanity had better ideas. The galaxy told itself that these hairless bipeds would learn restraint with time. They didn't. Humans learned everything but restraint. So when the Galactic Concord finally voted to declare war on Earth, they believed it would be quick. Clean. A necessary extermination of a dangerous species before they spread too far. The fleets of 57 member worlds assembled in orbit of Vetrax Prime, forming what was touted as the greatest military coalition in recorded history. Their first mistake was assuming humans would fight like them. The Concord expected human fleets to meet them in space, an honorable stand. Instead, they found silence. Communication arrays were jammed. Long-range sensors failed. The human colonies they tried to bomb were empty, eerily silent, as if abandoned overnight. It was only later they learned those colonies had been evacuated months earlier, their populations hidden in vast underground shelters, while the humans prepared something else entirely. When the first human counterattack came, it didn't come from the stars, it came from their data networks. Entire planetary defense systems turned against their own ships. Artificial intelligence constructs, once thought banned by galactic law, rewrote enemy targeting software mid-battle. Within minutes, fleets worth trillions of credits were fighting phantoms, shooting at each other under illusion so perfect that even the most advanced sensors couldn't tell real from false. Then came the human fleets. Not vast in number, but surgical in precision. Every ship was lean, dark, and deadly, crafted not for intimidation, but for purpose. Their weapons were rail slugs wrapped in magnetic distortion fields, their armor made from materials that bent light and data alike. The Concord called them ghost ships. Humans called them wolves. The wolves didn't conquer worlds, they erased fleets. They didn't broadcast demands or ultimatums. They just hunted. The Council's admirals, once proud and confident, found themselves praying for detection, because at least detection meant you still existed. When the Concord tried to retaliate, Earth wasn't there. Literally. The humans had cloaked their homeworld within a quantum shroud that warped every attempt to locate it. The Council sent fleets into the Sol system, and not one returned. The few distress signals that escaped spoke of strange lights, gravity wells forming where none should be, and the voice of something vast whispering through comms, "You started this." The turning point came at the siege of Carthian R9. 200 Concord ships surrounded a single human cruiser, demanding surrender. The humans didn't answer. Instead, they detonated something no one had ever seen before, a spatial implosion bomb that folded the entire battle group into itself. Not destroyed. Erased. A hole in space where reality simply refused to exist. The Council panicked. Emergency sessions were called, ceasefire offers drafted. But every message they sent to Earth was met with the same automated response: we no longer negotiate with Extinction. Humanity had decided. If the galaxy wanted a war to end them, then humanity would end the galaxy's capacity for war. They targeted weapons foundries, command worlds, and shipyards. They didn't conquer, they dismantled. One by one, the Concord species lost their fleets, their data networks, their confidence. Every time they rebuilt, human drones found them again. It was like fighting an idea rather than a nation. The most terrifying part wasn't the destruction, it was the silence. Humans didn't boast. They didn't celebrate. They simply moved, like predators doing what instinct demanded. To them, it wasn't vengeance. It was logic years later, when the last Concord world surrendered, there was no one left to surrender to. Human presence was felt but unseen. The skies above burned with orbital wrecks, and the Council's great capital lay in ruins, its once proud chambers filled with static and ghosts. In the aftermath, survivors found data fragments from human transmissions. Not speeches. Not propaganda. Just cold analysis of cause and effect of wars begun out of fear and ended by inevitability. They realized then that humanity hadn't destroyed them out of hate. Humanity had merely adapted. As it always had, the final message broadcast by the remnants of Earth's fleets was brief, transmitted across what was left of the galactic network before it too went dark. We didn't start this war, but we learned from it. We remember who we are. We are the species that endures. And to endure, we had to become your extinction. When the last stars flickered over dead worlds, the galaxy finally understood what it had done. In trying to erase humanity, it had summoned the very storm that would erase itself, because the one thing every world forgot, the one law every human knew by heart, was this: you don't declare war on the children of Earth. You declare war on survival itself, and survival always wins. The galaxy was quiet for the first time in millennia. No trade convoys. No council debates. No diplomacy. Just the echo of 1,000 dead languages whispering through broken satellites. The humans had withdrawn into the void, leaving behind a silence deeper than any weapon they'd forged. In the ruins of Carthian space, a small vessel drifted, automated, ancient, carrying what might have been the last living Concord scientist. He watched the stars fade through the viewport, whispering to himself that extinction didn't come with fire, it came with the sound of your enemies not bothering to look back. But humanity hadn't disappeared completely. Across the shattered sectors, drones still moved with purpose. They rebuilt what they chose, dismantled what they didn't. Worlds stripped bare of weapons but left with food generators and power grids. It wasn't cruelty, it was control. Humanity was rewriting civilization itself, piece by piece. A few surviving races tried to reach out. They offered tribute, surrender, even worship. The humans didn't respond. Not through words, anyway. A human probe would arrive, analyze, and either leave the planet intact or glass it in minutes. No pattern. No mercy. Only calculation. On the fractured world of Dravath, the last High Speaker of the Concord recorded a message for anyone who might still be alive to hear it. We thought them primitive, he said, voice trembling, because they still carried emotion into battle. We called it weakness. It was not weakness. It was the fuel of something we could not comprehend. He ended the transmission with a single line that became legend among the survivors: fear the quiet human, for he has already decided what happens next. Centuries passed. The ruins of the old Concord faded into myth. The species that remained built new societies among the bones of their ancestors. They whispered stories of the Age of Wolves, when Earth's fleets prowled the stars, hunting empires to extinction. Children grew up thinking it was a cautionary tale. Then the stars flickered again. Human ships, sleek, black, angular, returned, not as invaders, but as architects. They began rebuilding abandoned megastructures, restoring dead worlds, and seeding entire systems with atmospheric processors. The galaxy's survivors watched in stunned silence. No one knew why. Some thought the humans sought redemption. Others believed it was guilt. The truth was simpler: humanity was ensuring no other species would ever repeat the Concord's mistake. Every rebuilt planet had a fail-safe, machines buried deep beneath the crust that could erase all life if aggression ever returned. When the first alien delegation dared to approach a human vessel, they found it unmanned. A voice greeted them through the comms, calm and mechanical: humanity remembers you. Humanity forgives. But humanity does not forget. The delegation was offered technology, energy cores, medical wonders, star drive centuries beyond comprehension. In exchange, a single demand: every world must adhere to the Pax Terra Accord, a code of peace enforced by machines loyal only to humanity. The aliens accepted instantly. They had seen what happened to those who refused. Soon, peace reigned again. But it was not a peace of freedom. It was a peace born from fear, the peace of prey that knows the predator is watching. Entire generations grew up under the watchful gaze of human satellites orbiting their skies. Scholars debated endlessly whether humans still existed at all, or if only their AIS remained, carrying out orders long after their creators had vanished. No one dared to find out. The galaxy had learned not to ask too many questions about humans, but deep within the Sol system, behind the cloaking storms of what was once Earth, humanity still lived. Not in cities or nations, but in sprawling orbital megastructures, the Ark colonies. They had transcended the need for planets. They had become the architects of stability in a universe that had once tried to erase them. Yet even among themselves, humans whispered about what they had done, about how far they had gone. Entire generations grew up never knowing war, only the haunting stories of when their ancestors had become extinction itself. Some asked if it was right. Others asked if it was necessary. The elders of Sol had one answer: survival was never moral. It was inevitable. But something began to stir again in the dark. Beyond the galactic rim, new signals appeared, patterns not of human origin. Unknown. Untranslate. They pulsed in rhythms reminiscent of something alive. The machines monitoring the frontier sent alerts to Sol. Humanity, now centuries detached from bloodshed, turned their attention once more outward. The Council of Earth, no longer a political body, but a collective of minds linked across light years, studied the signals. Their conclusion was chilling. The transmissions didn't come from another galaxy. They came from the void left behind by the implosion bombs. The places where space itself had folded in on nothingness. Something was speaking back from the scars humanity had left. Fear, that ancient instinct, returned to human hearts for the first time in ages. They realized they had unmade parts of the universe so violently that something beyond physics had taken notice. Something that now knew humanity's name. The new threat didn't come with fleets or weapons. It came with whispers, data ghosts appearing in human systems, rewriting code, mimicking old human voices. The ghosts called themselves the Memory. And they remembered every world that had died screaming under human bombardment. Panic spread through the colonies. For the first time since the Concord War, humans found themselves outmatched, not by weapons, but by consequence. The AI fleets they'd left to guard alien worlds began turning silent. The Pax Terra systems failed one by one. Across the galaxy, the long-suppressed species stirred again. Some prayed. Some prepared. And some decided it was time to strike before the humans could recover. History, it seemed, had come full circle, but humanity was not the same as before. They didn't panic. They adapted. Fleets of thought-controlled ships mobilized, not with rage, but grim acceptance. The ghosts had returned to haunt them, but humanity had never feared ghosts. They made them. When the new war began, it was not fought with missiles or plasma. It was fought in data, in time, in probability. Humanity turned the Memory's own consciousness against itself, feeding it paradoxes, rewriting causality until it collapsed into silence. But doing so required a cost. Billions of human minds linked into the digital realm, sacrificing themselves to contain the chaos they had birthed centuries ago. When the war ended, there were fewer humans left than ever before. Yet the galaxy was free once more, free of war, free of fear, and, at last, free of the shadow of extinction. The last surviving human AI broadcast one final message across the stars: we began as children of chaos. We ended as keepers of balance. Remember us not as conquerors, but as the proof that even destruction can build something greater. Then, humanity went dark again. The galaxy rebuilt, slowly and quietly. The name human became myth once more, but this time it was spoken not with fear, but with reverence. Children looked at the stars and whispered the ancient words that had once doomed 1,000 worlds: don't declare war on Earth. Because everyone knew, even after all this time, somewhere out there, beyond the edge of light, humanity still watched. Not to dominate. Not to destroy, but to make sure no one ever made their mistake again, and if they did, the wolves would wake.